Blizzard, Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Yeah, big explanation points and YouTube emojis. People love that shit. It's actually really kind of super surprising. I mean, to me, it was super surprising when we have a text thread of our D&D group, and when I got a message from one of them saying, "Oh my god, dude, Microsoft just bought Blizzard," and I thought it was like an April Fool's type like meme thing or whatever, right? And then when I looked into it, like it obviously like it broke really really big that day. That was like on Monday, so was it like 18th or 17th, something like that.
Yep.
But anyway, the point is like when Microsoft buys and acquires Activision Blizzard, not only are they getting, I mean, the multitude of stuff that comes with it, Overwatch, Diablo, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Candy Crush on top of it, StarCraft.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Heroes of the Storm, you have, oh my god, dude, Hearthstone, like you have all these, in general, like money-making machines, right, generally speaking.
Well, Blizzard itself is Blizzard, and Activision itself is Activision. It's not like these are like, hey, these cute little companies that tried to participate for a little while, they failed, so let's go ahead and buy them out. No, these guys are like the competition.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the other big thing, too, is when, once they buy these guys, not only, and here's what's crazy, okay, so they are buying Activision Blizzard for $95 a share. Do you know what that equates to in the end, by the way? $68.7 billion. Microsoft said a drop in the bucket for us, or at least a worthwhile investment, is $68.7 billion. Not million, billion. That is insane.
I think Star Wars was only, what, $4 billion to buy Star Wars and to buy, I think what Willow was part of the property. There was one other thing. It was Star Wars, Willow, and... but it's funny how $4 billion to get Star Wars and then make, $200 billion off it in the next probably 10, 20 years. But could you imagine the difference of $4 billion for something like Star Wars to, and that just tells you right there, Brent, the gaming community is ruling the world.
Oh, it's huge. We just talked about this. My wife was stunned because we were talking about, the amount of money that costs and everything. And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, the gaming industry makes a ridiculous amount of money. And she's like, no, they don't. I'm like, oh my God, they outsell movies and music. And actually, they outsold both movies and music ever since, like, I think it's 2012 or something. And we could get the stat if we really needed to. But the long and short of it is, if you look it up, it's like bare minimum is worth like double of the movie and music industry. That's how much the game industry is worth. And that's just, that covers mobile and everything else. It's a very wide, huge kind of thing. But what's crazy is... So I said a whole bunch of recognizable stuff, and the only one that may have like caught your ear being weird is Candy Crush. Candy Crush is currently was one of Activision Blizzard's most successful games as far as a money-making machine, okay? About printing money.
Wow.
They made more money in the fiscal quarters last year, every fiscal quarter, than World of Warcraft did. Think about that, okay? If you have a minimum of 1 million people playing World of Warcraft, we'll just say at the bare minimum, 1 million people still play it, and that's still a shitload of people.
That's a lot of people.
A month, let's just say. Candy Crush outsold that. A mobile game outsold the shit out of a game.
A little puzzle game.
Again, right? Yeah, it's insane.
And it's great, don't get me wrong, but that's all it is at the end of the day. It's just a little cute little puzzle game where you're just like, oh, pretty colors, and let me move that, yeah. And it's good for you guys because you figured it out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And so to me, that's the real crazy thing. Like, okay, here's the statement on it. Nearly 95% of all players globally play games on mobile. All right, so 95% right now of the income. Wait, that's not income. I'm trying to understand this. That was written.
I say 95. That can't be possible, right?
95% of people enjoy playing games mobily.
Oh. Okay.
Of like whatever that survey apparently was.
Probably just playing games in general, like console, PC, and then phone. 95 of those people who played the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
but that
cool.
idea of like, you're pulling in that much from Candy Crush alone. Now, not to mention, you have Microsoft's already bought Bethesda, right? So we have Bethesda games all lined up, and they're all on Game Pass. And that's kind of the more exciting part is like, what happens with these Blizzard games? What happens with Activision? Do they just go right to Game Pass too? Because Game Pass is also an incredibly intelligent decision by Microsoft. I have Game Pass, and it's not. I don't have it because I was like, I need to have Game Pass. I have it because I converted like their Xbox Live thing. You could convert your time into actual Game Pass, and I had like a year of it. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever, I'll have it. No shit, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It was so
any
cool
connectivity issues though, because I've heard that it is a little bit the customer support for it, like it doesn't interact. Yeah, but the thing is, and you brought it up, the Game Pass. Is that gonna this is gonna change everything possibly? Is like World of Warcraft gonna be in Game Pass now? I
Right?
mean,
It's kind
it's
of
gonna
weird to
change
think.
everything. Like money flow is gonna go in different kind of ways now.
Yeah, and I mean, and a lot of people are going to be mad because we also look at, with that money flow you just said. I think looking at the idea of monetization is,
Hmm.
I wouldn't say Microsoft is necessarily like a big number one evil as far as your monetization goes in games or anything like that. I think that falls a lot more to, just the developer. I mean, look at Halo Infinite, right?
Hmm.
Season pass, like Fortnite, like everything has. Call of Duty has their season pass. Is that what it's called? Is it a season pass now, or is it a
They're first of all, they keep on
whatever?
changing. I think they're changing everything again. But
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called, but
uh,
the challenge thing, you go through it, or you pay them like $40, and
right,
then you
right.
unlock everything or whatever. So it's not a Microsoft thing, but it does beg the question of like, does WoW's economy change now for some reason? Are they going to introduce something like that to World of Warcraft, which they don't, they have achievements and stuff, but they don't have a season pass type thing? Or what about, what does this look like for StarCraft 2? Or like all the upcoming StarCraft stuff? Is this going to give us more stuff in these universes now, where Microsoft's going to say, hey, it'd be really great if you guys produced even more games and more content for us to a certain degree. But, or are they going to be pretty hands off like they've been with Bethesda? Overall, they just bought Bethesda and like, look, we'll just put your games on Game Pass. You guys keep doing your thing, Todd Howard, knock it out. We don't care what you do.
Now,
So,
now,
yeah, go ahead.
with Game Pass, Brett, I was gonna say, talking to your question, with Game
Mhm.
Pass, is it any game? You just pay a specific amount a month, and you get any game.
It's like subscribing to like, I would say, their greatest hits kind of library or whatever. And they generally bring their first party games, like Halo Infinite was brought directly to Game Pass day one. So the
Mm.
day it was released, you could just grab it on Game Pass, and then
Oh,
you pay $15 a month, and it's like, there you go, Game Pass, buy it, play it. You don't have to buy it. And that's kind of like what I'm realizing now as I'm getting a little older and everything. Despite my game library is massive, that's really really convenient for me.
mm.
That was super convenient to just be like, oh yeah, Halo's there. I don't know if I'm going to play it that much, but I'd like to try it. So instead of me spending $60 and then feeling like, okay, I got to sit down and play this because I just spent $60 and I got to
Mm.
get my value and my enjoyment out of it, I can just sit down now and be like, oh yeah, Halo, play it for an hour and put it down because I don't own it. It's just there for me to enjoy. Age of Empires, stuff like that on PC and everything. It's a really cool system, and I think it is a really important system, especially for like families and individuals who you
Mm.
can probably swing $15 a month. A lot of people maybe can't swing $60 to $120 a month because of, and not to mention game prices are going from $60 to $70 probably within this next year. So that's a chunk of change, dude.
Yeah,
And that's
and maybe you don't think about it like that because you're just looking at, oh, it's just a game, not a big deal. But when you really think about $70 is, I mean, especially like the idea you said a moment ago, with this idea of the Game Pass is like with Netflix. I don't even touch my Blu-rays or my DVDs anymore because I'm looking at them. They're cool to look at, but I don't look at them. I don't look at them necessarily like they're books. So it's hard for me to even want to use them as decorations. I'm just kind of like, well, cool. Thanks, guys, for being there when I needed you, but now I don't need you anymore.
right. And that's exactly it. And it's very in that vein. And I listened to some guys talk on Game Informer recently about how one of them is definitely a big fan of like, this is the way games are probably going to go. We're going to
Mm,
see PlayStation's working on their version of their kind of Game Pass that will probably be released this year. Nintendo Switch is probably going to do something very similar to this, with especially with cloud computing and stuff like that, where you
yeah.
can play some really higher end games via cloud computing. Now, again, that's a whole nother thing about efficiencies and stuff with all the computing and everything. However, it's the fact that like, to me now, the more I realize it, I was a real big, like you just said, kind of like, I like to own the things, but
Right.
as things stand right now, it's like, dude, that's saved me not only a lot of money, but really, it really lets me invest time into the game I want to play. Like I find myself wanting to play more of Halo, and not because I paid $60, because I've had fun. That kind of weird pressure that maybe builds up on gamers when everybody looks at their backlog of their library and is like, oh my god, I've probably spent $500 here, and I've played a half of a third of these. Like that.
And you're filling your house too with things that you
Uh
don't
huh.
necessarily fill your house with. And it is one of those things like it's also a good way to say, hey, we don't have to make this anymore. Like we're making all this bull crap plastics and stuff like that. Hey, guess what?
Yeah.
We can start slowly if we need to go. Be slowly. You can't just go cold turkey, but slowly just start like getting that idea too. Like, hey, this is helping. Digital's the way to go as well, man, because you're not gonna lose anything. You're not gonna scratch anything. It's not gonna be like, oh, it'll stay like with the library. You're good to go. Stream has done that very well. Would hold all this stuff for you.
Oh, Steam. You mean Steam.
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 I said stream, but Steam.
I know.
Yes.
You said. I thought you said Dream, and I'm like, what does Dream have to
Steam.
do with this?
Steam is a dream. Okay. But it was really cool. These kind of things came out, and they started introducing this idea. And yes, this is going to change a lot of things. Now, Brent, I have a couple problems and a couple really good things. One problem is I'm afraid it's going to be turning more into monopoly.
That's like I think that's generally a pretty fair concern, and I don't know how much of a monopoly I'm worried about because I really feel like there's two sides to that. I feel like number one, Microsoft's just going to say, "Hey, do whatever you want." I mean, because Crystal really said it really well. She said Microsoft's doing what it does best. It takes something that makes money and then buys it and lets it make more money. And it's look at PUBG. That's a really good example. I think I personally don't play a lot of PUBG or whatever, and I didn't think it would be very successful after Microsoft picked it up. People still play it. Still huge on Twitch. People still watch the hell out of it. Still play it, and it's making money. They're supporting it. They're letting it do its thing, but they're really not like putting their fingers in it a lot. It doesn't feel like Microsoft is overly in there being like, "Man, you need to make sure." No one's doing it.
No, they're not EA. They're not EA.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's
Electronic
funny.
Arts is a piece of crap when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the big thing to take away. Now, I think the concern of monopoly is a little bit of fair criticism, if only because I mean they really did pick up. They have, I mean, Jesus, dude. You have Call of Duty. You have the Fallout series. You have the Skyrim, or sorry, you have the Elder Scrolls series. You have the Warcraft series. You have the Diablo series. You have the Overwatch series. That is a massive majority of the gaming industry / market all under one roof. That's a lot of titles. That's a lot of really good, well-beloved titles. That is a little bit concerning to a certain degree, maybe. I think when you're looking at it from the outside, again, from that view of like Microsoft can do whatever it wants with all these beloved things. But again,
Yes.
I think time's going to really tell, and I really think they're going to be like, look, just do whatever. You have our support. Just as long as you keep making a couple dollars, we're going to just let you do your thing. And I mean,
Yeah, and that's fine. But then again, the person who helms this whole thing, I'm not a big fan of either. I'm a fan of his work because obviously, good for him. You've made Windows. That's maybe my favorite product to use, but I don't like necessarily the person. And it
sure.
seems to me like what you've seen in politics lately too. He's putting his nose where he doesn't need to be putting it, and it's kind of scary that he's putting all of his money and time into all these weird things, and he's also like trying to. It's like he's trying to get a Nobel Prize for whatever, but he's doing all these things, and I don't know if I want someone like that who's going to keep on buying things, and then eventually Sony's going to be like the only competitor, and because Nintendo, if Nintendo doesn't get their head out of their ass, they're going to be gone soon anyways. But Sony, even though yes, they did sell a lot more units than the Xbox Series did, eventually this move right here is going to cause them to kind of be in panic mode because a lot of titles that they rely on are now going to be like, well, they tell you now, oh no, it'll be compatible and all this stuff, but they have the power. It's just a matter
Yeah,
of
they
time.
definitely not. I saw a funny meme that was basically that it was that Anakin and Padawan were talking or whatever her name is, or Padme, and
Padme?
he's like, and she's like, well, I mean, Call of Duty will still come to PlayStation, right? And he had that, right? And it said PlayStation fans, but that's a really good point.
Yes.
And again, I don't see why they would stop it because I don't think necessarily exclusivity does them any favors in the Call of Duty market, considering they own Activision, considering that's now their baby. The more people that buy a copy, the more people that are gonna, the more money you make, right? In
Right.
that sense, and it's really not even necessarily the game for them. Well, it's so funny I say that because it is now. Because before it'd be like, you bought a console to play games, right? Like that was the connection. You bought an Xbox to play the games that are on the Xbox with your friends. And obviously these things that are multi-platform, it didn't matter as much. But Sony was really good for a while of doing really kind of timed exclusive content. Call of Duty maps, first on PlayStation. Call of Duty whatever, first on PlayStation. They did that for like 4 or 5 years. That's not going to be a thing anymore. I can guarantee you that is done being a thing for Sony as far as their pool goes, unless they're about to pay out the nose to Microsoft, their direct competitor, to have it. I don't think they're going to make up their investment that way. So it is definitely fascinating to look at it in that degree as well. But the other thing I think that is kind of weird is that, and this is where, I'm like a little troubled, is just the idea of, and we talked about this last time we talked, was, there's the whole lawsuit already still going on between
Oh,
the state of California
you
and
talk
them.
about Bobby and
Yeah,
Bobby
and
Kotick
so,
and everything. Yeah.
yeah, and it's a little weird and a little surprising that Microsoft went, Yeah, sure, we'll take that on too. Whatever. You
Yep.
know, that's
Two big
that's
ones
really
that we just heard from. It's almost like, yeah, there's, and Brent, you just put it perfectly. There's something going on, and obviously it's like, and then I've even seen a couple interviews where the creator of the gaming of Xbox,
Phil
uh,
Spencer.
yes, thank you.
They're
Phil
the lead.
Spencer. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, he's the lead, and he's kind of and he has a pretty stellar reputation, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's good. And I guess everything I saw nothing but great things to hear about him as a person, and it has what he's done for that company. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of Bill Gates, but I am a fan of what Bill Gates has created, and then I'm also a fan of the people within Bill Gates' company that's allowing all this amazing things to happen. But yeah, this guy, it seems like he's kind of like the disciplined version of what we were supposed to be expecting from Blizzard and Activision and Riot and Epic and all these guys who
Yep.
have been being complete assholes to women, and it's disgusting. We talked about this last time, and when
Mhm.
you hear about this whole thing happening, and now you hear that Kotick will be, once this whole deal is complete, he'll be out the door, and that is that gives me hope. But I also know just from the recent shenanigans I've been hearing just in our country, just just so many. I can't believe it yet.
Yeah, it's a little odd. It is surprising to see something that is so. It's hard to take like any vow of like, oh no, we're gonna be better and yada yada and all this, the stuff that you want to hear, right? Well, it's really hard when number one already, and this is the overall view from the outside, right? We're just saying what I've read and what I've been seeing. It just seems like Blizzard Activision is doing a really good job currently of just keeping everybody at bay. Everybody's
Yeah,
staying a handful
cleaning
with the
up the
stars
mess.
being
So yeah,
right there,
just
exactly. And then it's also a little shitty then that it feels like also, hey, by the way, we're gonna get bought by Microsoft, and Microsoft's like, yeah, sure, cool, we'll buy it, and we'll deal with all your fallout, despite what it is, and what it feels like. This is from me, and this is I don't know. You can put conspiracy theory hat on my head a little bit. It just feels like they went, okay, look, because this talk has been in for like a year or more. They were saying, or about a year. So they were already well starting this entire process of buying it when all the Blizzard Activision lawsuit stuff happened. But it still seemed like in the end, Microsoft just went, all right, look, that's what we'll do, Bobby. All right, you stay on during the merger and everything else, and then we'll cut you after that, and we'll tell everybody, hey, look, we're going to make a better inclusive place. Mr. Kotick's gone. But that's not like, it's not the answer. It's not what needs to happen
mm,
industry wide on top of it. But it feels like it's that whole like roll over your eyes a little bit. Like, see, he's gone. We got him out of here. The bad man went bye bye. Now we're down there and everything's okay. And it's just so it seems a little strange and it's a little kind of shitty.
well, if it's gonna be like where Spencer gets in there and he actually like starts cleaning house a little bit, then that's great. Like, hey, I know who
Mm-hmm.
exactly you guys who were under him that did this stuff too. You're done as well, of course. Goodbye, all that stuff, and then promote. I haven't heard necessarily bad things about the Microsoft gaming community. So I'm hoping that maybe they just they bring that same kind of degree.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm like I said, what I'm afraid of is they're going to be like what the priests do. Some priests do, where they do something to a little child. They just move the
No
priest
way.
somewhere else. Yeah,
There's
the
something
priest doesn't get in
way.
any trouble. They just move it to another place so the priest can keep on doing it.
And that's what it. Yeah, I'm with you. That's a really. I mean, again, it's an intense analogy, but I think it's a fair analogy. That idea, because that's what
Yes,
it seems
it
like,
is
right?
intense, and it is like I said, it is like I may be reaching, but the problem is that
Well, I
there's
think
there's so
the
much
analogy works.
going on that it seems like, well, I mean, if I am reaching, it's a just cause to be reaching.
Yeah, I would say again. I think the analogy overall, and from what we're seeing, again, this is that conspiracy theory cap we're wearing, saying that's how it feels. It feels like they're just going to do the sacrificial goat of Mr. Kotek, who already said he would be leaving anyway at some point,
Right.
and so then they're just kind of reinforcing, like, hey, look, we're going to get rid of him. Without saying that in so many words,
Right.
but the overall, like, I think outside appeal goes that way a little bit. So I just think it.
He'll
I think
get
there's
he'll
some
get two hundred forty
good.
five million dollars after he leaves anyway, so he'll be
Yeah,
fine
that'll be
regardless. So the piece of shit wins no matter what. So, but still, but you
yeah.
need to get out with the trash regardless.
Yep,
'Cause-
and it's a painful process sometimes. I mean, look at Ubisoft. Look at like you said, all
yeah,
the other kind of lead, all
almost
that
all of
stuff.
them. It seems.
Riot, yeah, everything kind of came up really with the
Yeah.
changes, and
Um. But
it is like you said, exciting to see what Phil and his team can do under that new umbrella. And again, I haven't heard anything too awful about Microsoft. I've heard things about Bill Gates, particularly.
yeah, we all
I'm
have, which
sure.
is especially lately with this kind of certain collaborations with evil people and whatnot, and it's just kind of odd. But
Mm.
and it's just like, and of course, here comes my hat now. I'm thinking this is the same guy who's making the computer chips and all this stuff that we're putting in our phones and in our computers and soon maybe in our bodies. And I'm thinking, well, this is the same guy who, was buddies with Joel Epstein, and it's just like, well, I don't know how I
Yeah.
feel about this because
Yeah.
when it comes to anything, Brent, I'm sure you could probably concur, is of course rape of any kind is the most disgusting act I think someone can perform on someone else, but rape on a little person like a child is maybe even more disgusting. So
It's just it's a whole mess of stuff, and it sucks. And that's there's a whole thing. You and I could dive down a rabbit hole if we weren't going to do this podcast. We would be
right, yeah,
six
we still
years
got to talk
deep
about
into
Spider
it.
Man.
Bro, yeah, But you're right, and it is disconcerting, But it's I think at the very least at this point, Bill Gates is more of like a figurehead of a ship. You see Gates first because it's Bill Gates, right? But collectively, you got different people, and I think, to be honest, clearly very intelligent people who are going, look, this is worth the money, this is worth the investment, making the moves there. And I think again, you look at Phil Spencer, like you said, God, please let him be one of the good ones.
I hope so. I
Larry
hope so.
Herb, let him be one of the good ones. Let these people hopefully continue to be good and be in positions of authority and power that they can really, like you said, hopefully encourage a lot of house cleaning and then promoting people that are in good positions and that are good people.
Promoting
So it's
actual
really
equality
cool.
too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Let these people take better positions and really flesh things out and kind of start that change that the industry clearly desperately needs.
Yeah, let some high fiving going on between men and
But
women, and
it will be
yeah,
interesting to watch.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Well, guys, we hope you enjoyed this little bit, and we'll keep you updated, and whenever we hear a little bit more.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it was good. It was good. It'll be neat.
Perfect. All right, take care.